Big Brother Diary Room.
Every single season and learn everything that there is to know about everybody.
Please make your way to the diary
celebrities. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Diary Room, a Big Brother podcast where we're trying to find the best player in Big Brother history. We are still here in the first round. We are a year through the podcast, and another great guest is joining us today. Before I bring him in, of course, I am Matt here, as always, for a year now with Aman. Aman, how are you?
I am fantastic. I cannot believe it's been a year of comparing and contrasting has gone by, and we've still got many years left to go. So really excited to keep going and super excited for our guest today. So I can't wait to just get him in here and get this conversation going.
Yes, I don't want to quiz myself off the top of my head. I was going to say, I know this is the first player from the legendary Cookout Alliance. I think it might be the first player from BB23 to join us here today. It is the great Kyland Young. Kyland, how are you?
I am great. I'm excited to be here. I love this concept. You know, I love to analyze like the game and players, and it's crazy you guys have been doing this for already so long.
We still got a lot.
It's still round one, like you said.
Yeah, we still have plenty of players from your season to get to. We've gotten to some of them, including you. You have won your matchup. You advanced to the second round when you came up the first time. So look at you go. Round of applause.
What was the matchup?
I really should have had that prepared before.
That's okay.
Let me double check. Kyland, you beat Monet from Big Brother 12.
Oh, okay. Thank God.
Very early.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the Cookout members were hard pressed not to win their matchups. But yeah, Monet was kind of a slam dunk for you.
Yeah, Kyland, through this point, only one member of the Cookout has not yet come up on the podcast, has not been drawn yet. Could happen today, and that's Azza. Everybody else has come up, and all but one member of the Alliance has gone through to the next round. Unfortunately, Big D did not make it. But
do you know who he faced?
Big D was up against Big Brother 12's Matt Hoffman.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So,
which was so ironic because, obviously Matt was sort of the person that sort of came up with the concept of the brigade, a strategy by which the Cookout then took and perfected. And there's a lot of dialogue during your season about who was it that started the Cookout, and Big D sort of postured himself as being one of the main ones. So it's interesting that he was then paired up with the person who started the brigade.
yes.
And I did vote for Big D to go forward.
Yeah.
But
wasn't quite enough.
Didn't work out that way.
Yeah. Kyland, how's life? How's everything going since the last time we saw you on TV a couple of months ago?
Pretty good, pretty busy. We got to just a lot of focus on different content projects mostly. I did do another show that comes out this fall, but it hasn't been announced, so we can't officially talk about it.
Yes.
But maybe people in the interwebs have heard already. But so very excited for that, and then really just adjusting, to being back. I've been back like a couple months, or a month and a half, and then just focus on content. So I do a lot of TikTok live streams. Really enjoy that. It's just an easy way to connect with other creators, but then also just other people who watch the shows and like to talk about them. So that's been really fun. I'm pretty regular, and I'm on live stream pretty much every night. And then a lot of times in the day, I'm focused on content. I have this, fitness. I kind of started this fitness coaching / behind the scenes platform. Well, I mean, it's not the platform I started. It's passive, so that's why I've been connecting with people on fitness coaching and just on some of the behind the scenes stuff for the show and travel, or for other shows and travel. And yeah, I feel like I've started. I'm entering like a Kevin Hart era where I'm trying to do a bunch of different things because it keeps my mind running in a positive way. And right now it's not feeling overwhelming yet. It feels like everything's making progress, and it feels like maybe there's a more efficient way to focus on one at a time. But right now I'm enjoying all of them. And like I said, I don't feel overwhelmed. So that's what's happening.
So
yeah, I was about to ask. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Matt.
no, please.
I was gonna ask, like, how's your social battery going through that? Because I mean, not just for you, but so many of your peers, they go from like lives of like, I'll say relative obscurity to then being in a position where you have lots of opportunities to continue going back on TV for other reality TV shows, and therefore broadening your network and meeting more people that meet more people meet more people. And then a lot of like what you're able to do kind of relies on you having to be in front of people, either on the screen or like in person a lot too. So like, does it feel, I mean, you kind of answered it already, that you don't feel like you're overwhelmed, but like socially speaking, does it ever have a bit of a
lot? Yeah,
it's a lot. It's a lot.
No, for sure. I mean, I would definitely categorize them as different. Like the stuff that's virtual is not as draining. But then the other things, like I just really prepare for them. I'm pretty intentional. Like I don't really go out to like a lot of bars or clubs or anything. Like if I leave, I live by myself, this is my first time living by myself, which has been nice for, since I moved in here October.
Okay.
And I feel like, so if I'm home, I'm like able to get that solo recharge time. And if I'm not, it's for some sort of purpose that I knew I was going to go someplace. Like, I mean, I'm a big movie person, so I go to the movies a lot. But as far as like, even if I'm going to like a premiere, I usually have some advance notice, and I just am really prepared. Like I think I mentally prepare for the situations I want to be in. And then I'm also, I think, which just maybe comes with getting older, I get more and more comfortable, like, saying no and leaving places when I want. And I mean, I definitely, I feel like I'm doing a lot of things, but I am trying to be intentional about, making sure that it's my choice. And then that way I get the opportunity, like I said, to really prepare. So, So far it's managed okay. And I do like being around people to a part. Like I would say, I'm really more like an omnivert. Like there's some portion of my internal battery that is charged if I'm alone, but there's also some portion of it that can only be charged from being around other people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I get to manage both of those right now, and sometimes I guess it's a lot, but I feel like I find myself just all of those moments of riding the line of overwhelm or stress, but like it's the things that catch me up are much more are different than social events. It's more like, my routines like getting out of whack. Like, and I use routines loosely, by the way, too, because I feel like the nature of life I'm living, and then especially when I'm on the shows, like, you don't really have control over your routine. But I think of the things that I can be in control, the things I can plan for, I do. And then so sometimes when those things go off script, then that can become overwhelming and struggle, but figuring it out.
That's got to be funny. You like get home from like filming a challenge and you're like, oh, I can pick what time I have dinner today. That's interesting. That's exciting. But on that topic, as far as like the challenge, of course, you've been on a couple seasons recently. We're here today talking some Big Brother, which I'm excited to do with you because I feel like it's been a minute since I've heard you talk any Big Brother. But so of course we like, I feel like I know deep down you're ready for, to get that challenge championship. Do you still have that same itch that you would like want to get back in the BB house at all, or are you kind of focused on maybe some of the other shows?
Well, I would definitely love to get back in the Big Brother house. It's the most complex game of all the games. Like and I find that fascinating. It's kind of like, I think about chess. Like chess is one of my absolute favorite games, and it's like arguably pretty boring. Like it's very technical. It's just like, but that's what I love about it. I love how complex it is. And so, I like I said, do live streaming and people pop in every single day. I think that I'm on. I don't think I've been on for more than an hour without someone asking like, oh, what's better, Big Brother challenge, or what's harder? Try and compare them. And I usually say like, it is truly like pizza and ice cream. Like they're just, the one's not better than the other. I love them both and they're just different. But as far as Big Brother, like, I would love the opportunity. I think that it's such a, they have, I don't have the itch because returning on Big Brother is so much more rare.
Yes.
So I feel like in the challenge, like it feels like, okay, the odds are good that I have more coming up from the conversations I've had. So it's like I will likely have that opportunity. Whereas like Big Brother is, I don't like, set that as as much of a likelihood just because it's rare. But
it's rare for
if the
anyone.
opportunity came up, I'd love to go back. Or even like a reindeer games. Reindeer games even, is even
please.
Yes,
simpler. That's just the game.
Need that.
We love
sure.
reindeer games.
Aman, you so I won't quiz either of us actually. Let me just run through. I want to talk to you, Kyland, about the other players that have come up from your season in this project so far. So we talked about the cookout. Again, Azza hasn't come up yet. Derek, unfortunately for him, did not go through. We have 3 more players that did advance in their matchup, and that is both Derek X and Claire and Sarah Beth, all advanced. I'm sure there's no surprises there.
No, definitely not. I really feel like those are people, those 3 specifically you just mentioned, like are people that I know me and Tiffany and Chada talked extensively about. Like we would have loved to work with them. Like if it wasn't, if we didn't feel personally compelled to like for everything the cookout stood for in a way that was just more important than their individual games. It's like those are people we will rock with. Like I know I would have wanted to rock with DX till the end, and Tiffany with Claire, and really it's a I'm like and SP as well. Like me and SP like really did get close, and I think she's incredibly smart and crafty, and I think that I think any one of them would have excelled in pretty much any other season.
Yeah, so they all went through, no issues there. Aman, I will quiz you. Do you remember the 2 players from BB23 that have lost so far? One of them was very recent.
I want to say, wait, Whitney just lost, didn't she?
Whitney just lost. And the other one starts with a B.
Brittany
lost, yes.
To who?
Omarosa.
Yeah.
That was quite a matchup very early on in the
That
podcast.
was a tough one.
Brittany versus Omarosa. We did have to give it to Omarosa there. And then Whitney recently lost to Big Brother 21 runner-up Holly Allen. So didn't have a whole lot of data on Whitney to really
fair.
dive
Very
into
fair.
there. So that's where we were at. So that's the results so far, but still plenty of players from the season that it would be fun if they come up today. I'll pull up the wheel to get you guys an idea of who we may be talking through today.
I can actually read it this time.
A lot of names here. I think we're specifically going around the 16 through 26 era, Kyland's golden era of watching the show in recent times. So endless possibilities
Big
today.
Brother podcast.
Are we all ready?
Yeah, I'm excited.
This is cool. The fact that you have this wheel set up with all these players, I think, is like. I feel like just reading names. I'm like, oh shoot, yeah, this era and this era, like, and it is the modern Big Brother era. So I think this is really cool that you guys set this up.
Just imagine what it looked like a year ago when it was filled with.
I know. I was thinking about that earlier when you first popped it up.
Yeah, a lot of players. Not so many right now. We are getting down to it, and let's just get into it. Let's spin the wheel and find out the first player of the day that we're going to be talking about.
Oh my god. The
illustrious spot of first of the day. Looks like it's BB16, Hayden Voss. A man who was attached a little bit to Nicole Franzel in Nicole's first season. A little bit of a showmance was going on there. Blonde, surfer man, all that kind of vibe. Let me pull up Hayden's graphic real quick, and Aman is going to read us some notes to remind us all about Hayden for anyone who may need a reminder.
Okay, and yes, again, this is Hayden Voss.
Yes,
not to be confused with Hayden Moss, the winner of BB12. All right, Hayden. Early in the house, Hayden grew close to fellow house guest Nicole, and they formed a romantic relationship. He and Nicole formed an alliance with Christine. He also became the last member of the Bomb Squad before the alliance ended. In week 6, his alliance member Jocasta was blindsided, thus leaving Hayden, Nicole, and Donnie on the outs. When he failed to win HOH, Hayden was nominated against Donnie by Caleb. After Donnie won the POV, Hayden was nominated against Nicole, sealing his fate, and he was evicted by a vote of 5-2 he placed 10th.
Yes. Kyland, I feel like this is a player that I feel like you played with a lot of Haydens, not in the sense of like who Hayden was on his season, but considering your alliance was obviously so dominant in the game, Hayden was the type of person that to me on BB16 kind of just lived in the house alongside a bunch of other people that were playing the game. And so to see a lot of the stronger players in the game have to navigate that type of person, sometimes they're valuable to you, sometimes you just need them out of the way. And again, I feel like a lot of players on 23 that just weren't the cookout were that type of player.
I mean, I actually may push back a little bit because I feel like that was one thing that I remember having conversations with, like, I think it was me and Tiffany and Claire one time. We're just like, why aren't there more like dumb people in that? Like, why aren't there people? I feel like every season, and I'm not calling Hayden dumb, but I feel like every season you have some people who are just like, okay, they're here. They don't know what's going on. They're not really trying to play the game. And I feel like for the most part, we didn't really have that. And that was, and we just listed the Derek and Claire's and Alyssa is gaming really hard. But yeah, I don't know if we necessarily had to that. Like, I do remember watching Hayden, and from what I saw, it really does feel like the description you just said. Like, he's just kind of there.
Yeah.
And I think that we didn't have as many of that. I mean, I may think of like a Travis, but he was there so short amount of time to really know if that is, anyone else we can have. And then there's also a difference of like, like Brittany's playing really hard, but then maybe less effective because she's so close she's just surrounded by like Big D and Azza. So yeah, it'd be I don't know if we have those, but I do recall but I definitely remember Hayden and Nicole, of course.
Yeah. Aman, he, existed within the house, within Nicole's group, but that group was so like messy in the first place. The Nicole, Christine, Hayden, whatever they were trying to form. And I don't even know if it's fair to call them messy. It's just because they were not a part of the dominant group in the house. There was nothing much that they could do.
Yeah, I mean, it really was a ragtag group of individuals that were never really going to be able to do much. One, because Christine was in with the in crowd of the group far more than anybody else on that side of the house was. So much so that Nicole felt so betrayed by Christine. And so I just feel like it was one of those situations where they were always playing catch up. I do remember Hayden voicing that he knew where the threats were. Like in the beginning, he knew how big of a threat Frankie was going to be. He knew how big of a threat Derek and Cody were going to be. Like, he was very much aware of it. He just really couldn't do much about it because he didn't really win any influential competitions to make anything happen. So I felt like every time one of them won something, it was to sort of like defend themselves from going home as opposed to actually making anything happen in the game. And I do think that there was also just a bit of like, I mean, Big Brother 16 is very much known as the summer camp season. And yes, a lot of it has to do with sort of like the kumbaya nature of the house. Everyone got along. But it also there were some people that were just there to sort of just like have a good time. And like they kind of like let the happenings of the house happen. And I think that he was kind of one of those people. And so like, not a bad guy, not a bad social game. I feel like most of the people in BB16 don't have bad social games. It's just, are you going to be in power or are you not going to be in power? Are you going to be one of Derek's henchmen or are you not going to be one of Derek's henchmen? And that's kind of like where that all lands.
I feel like if this was a different time, Kyland, I could see a world where Hayden makes his way to the challenge, but this is long before we're actually going to get that kind of jump from these players. So
I could see something like that for sure.
But not a whole lot to get into with Hayden. Just, we kind of covered it. It was with Nicole. There was that one point in the season, I think you were just mentioning, that it seemed like something could exist between Cody and Derek with Hayden and Nicole, but it was fake. It wasn't going to amount to anything, and he's gone before there's ever even a possibility of it. So yeah, not the player with the most things to talk about here, but honestly, I feel like I remember Hayden more as like Andy's friend than I and I'm talking Andy Herron from BB15, who I know is good IRL friends with Hayden Voss. That's
I
where
forgot
I
about
think
that.
of when I think of Hayden more than I think of anything from BB16. But
He made 2 appearances though, because then they invited him back a little bit during
Did they?
BB18. It was during BB18.
Hayden?
They had some type. I don't think he came back into the house per se, but they interviewed him
For Nicole.
for a segment for Nicole. I guess talking about Nicole's game or Nicole's
Yes,
time in the house.
yep.
And he just basically was just there talking about her, which was interesting because they weren't dating anymore at the time. And that's kind of what he said at the top. He was like, yeah, me and Nicole dated, but we're not dating anymore, just so you guys know before I talk about anything further.
Was probably a good disclaimer considering she was seeing somebody else on the season. So,
Yeah.
All right. Well, like I said, not a ton to get into with Hayden, but we're going to find him an opponent and we'll see which one of him or his opponent are going to go through to the next round.
Yeah,
All right.
let's see. Who's Hayden Voss going against?
Hayden versus.
Looking like we're going to go to BB17.
Oh my God,
Meg
it was
Maley.
so close to
Meg
Frenchie.
I know.
Yes. One spot over from Meg Maley was Frenchie French, which I don't think is his government name, but I don't know. Instead, we're going to talk Meg Maley, which is kind of an interesting matchup here because these two are similarly positioned within the house. Of just kind of in the middle and taken out in similar spots. But let me get Meg's graphic up real quick. If you're not watching us on YouTube, you should be. But Aman, notes on Meg.
Yes. Meg played a quiet social game in the house and often laid back and watched events unfold within the house. Because of her arthritis, she became infamously known for her ineptitude in comps. I didn't know it was due to arthritis. Interesting.
Yeah.
Earning her the title of Grandma Meg. She stuck with her Goblins alliance during the season, even though they were getting picked off. When Vanessa won HOH for the 3rd time, she nominated Meg and James in an attempt to split them up. After James won the POV, Meg was evicted by a vote of 4-1.
Yeah. Kyland, before we talk more specifically about Meg, just considering we're having a 17 and 16 matchup here, do you have any overall thoughts on the Battle of the Block era of the show? Would you have had any interest in playing during this time where we have 2 HOHs, 4 nominees, battling it out to see who's going to stay on the block, who's going to get dethroned? It's, on top of the already complicated Big Brother game that you are such a big fan of, it adds a whole other layer that people didn't know what to do with.
Yeah, I think that most of the twists are, I feel like it's often like the more fun maybe it could be for the viewers, the worse it'd be to play in the environment. I mean, minus for me personally, the what was the 24, the when they split the house outside.
Oh yeah,
Big Brother Fest, Fire Fest, whatever.
Oh yeah,
I thought that was terrible to watch and terrible to play personally. But the but I think that Battle of the Block just sounds it was. So going back to my initial point, Battle of the Block is something I really enjoyed watching as a fan. I don't think I would want to play it. I think it just adds such layers of complication to the game.
I can't even imagine how the cookout continues to hide in the way that you guys were during the season with two people winning HOH every week. And the way that you guys were obviously able to, I don't know if manipulate's the kindest word, but I'll use it for now. Some of the non-cookout members into doing work for you guys along the way. Having that with 2 HOHs every week would have been kind of insane, but
yes.
It's a mechanism of the show I'm on that we had for a period of time.
Yeah, and then how did the one get dethroned again? What would happen?
The 4 nominees would face off. So if Aman and Kyland, you were the HOHs, you would both nominate 2 people each, and then your nominees would face off against each other, and whoever won would dethrone their
Battle
HOH.
of the Block. Yeah. Frankie.
So,
sorry, I was thinking Frankie's thing.
Yeah, Frankie, that was a Battle of the Block competition. Yeah, that he won all by himself. But let's talk about Meg. Aman, any thoughts on Meg the player?
Yeah, I mean, I think you comparing her to Hayden is decent. I think I think she was definitely aware of what was going on. I think that a lot of the players in BB17 were obviously a lot more attuned as to what was going on. I don't think that BB16 and BB17 are similar in tone at all. I think that a lot of them did come to play. They were just completely outmaneuvered by what Austin and Vanessa had going on. And for a large part of the beginning of the game, Shelly and Clay. I think Meg, and I'm glad that the little blurb that I just read sort of made it clear, she did have a bit of a physical disadvantage. So as far as those comps were concerned, it was always going to be harder for her to be in power. And I think that automatically deemed her. I mean, like, look, they all called her Grandma Meg. I think that automatically deemed her as like a non-threat. I think obviously the later in the game you keep her, because she's so likable, the more of a social threat she became. But she was never really considered in anybody's plans outside of like what was going on with Austin and all of them. So she was just an easy pawn to throw up over and over and over again because you knew that you could probably beat her. So yeah, I felt bad for her in that way because you could see that like she kind of just like would watch everybody that was around her get picked off. But there really wasn't much that she could do. Yeah, that's kind of where it ends for Meg with me. I mean, I think that she was at least smart enough to galvanize the people on her side to do certain things, but outside of that, there really wasn't much else that she could do.
Yeah, Kyland, obviously the season is very much centered around Vanessa and Austin and the twins who make it all to the end. And Steve, of course, our winner. Johnny Mac is a big character there. So Meg does kind of fall by the wayside. But do you have any specific memories of her time in the house?
Well, I feel like even as you list all those names, I'm like, dang, these are such like there's some big personalities and big players in that in as far as that within that game. But Meg, I do remember her actually, like, I don't remember, and maybe I'm leading into the vote here, but like, I don't remember Hayden talking to anybody besides Nicole. Like, I'm sure he did, just to my memory, like nothing stands out. Whereas like Meg, I feel like I remember her just kind of bouncing around to different, like she was active in conversations with a good amount of people.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that stands out to me at least.
Yeah, she had a very televised friendship with Clay, for those who may not remember, where her and Clay got very close, and the show made a big meal out of whatever that relationship was or wasn't. Her eviction leads to, I believe, if I'm on, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe leads to some RHAP lore. The night that I believe Rob declares that Johnny Mac and Steve are losers because they voted to evict Meg instead of voting to evict Julia and breaking up that monster alliance. Instead, they stick with the alliance and get rid of Meg, who's no harm to anybody. I believe that's the night. Apologies if I'm wrong, but a big moment in early Big Brother RHAP days.
Wait, what makes it a big moment about him saying that?
Rob gets unhinged during some Big Brother podcast during the season in a way he doesn't for Survivor. And so it's really fun when that happens. So when he's usually, a little bit more buttoned up and all of a sudden it's a Big Brother recap and he's just declaring that Johnny Mac and Steve are losers, we were all laughing.
He usually tries to remain like sort of like the partial like moderator of conversation,
but he lets it loose a little bit on BB.
No, I mean it's funny because I mean I feel like that's huge for Steve because like that's the I feel like the one of the best parts of winning is you don't have to explain yourself like your mistake.
Yeah, come home and answer to that. I won. Who's the loser now?
So obviously it worked out.
It was all good. But a very funny moment there.
I agree with you though, Kyland. She was very friendly with everybody, and it was to the point where, again, I feel like she was very aware of what was going on. She knew who was going home before that. Sometimes before that person knew that they were going to be going home. She just couldn't do much about it. Like I remember one of her DRs that sticks out in my mind because I love Davon. It was like the week that Davon was going to go, and she was just like, "Yeah, there's nothing that they can do," and I felt awful about it. I was like, "Yeah, like." This sucks. I don't want to watch this week. Like I stopped watching Big Brother that entire week that Davon was up for eviction because I just couldn't take it. I just could not take it. And then
Yeah.
little did I know that was going to be not the last time that I was going to have to deal with that in regards to Devon. But yeah. I mean, Meg, beautiful soul, really kind soul, fun. Everybody loved her. She just,
She was kind of a little bit of the Ozza before Ozza was in the community as far as planning these events. Ozza's now,
really?
one of the, Ozza's obviously a big organizer of watch parties and events during the Big Brother season. Meg used to do at least one a year, and it was in support of one of the foundations that she worked very closely with. But yeah, she got reality stars together along with Andrea from Survivor, and there was a couple of years
she did
of those events, and they were fun.
I met her and Johnny Mac. I'll never forget. She called me a cutie when I met her. So she's very
she's
charming.
got your vote?
Yeah, well.
Well,
Maybe.
let's start with Kyland, because I think you were kind of tipping your hand a little bit. It sounds like you might be a Meg vote here.
Yeah, I feel like it'd have to be a Meg vote. Yeah, I think that her, like you guys just mentioned, her being aware of what's going on in the house, and then also, as I mentioned, I felt like she had more, conversations with people in the house in a proactive way than at least what I saw of Hayden. Granted, I wasn't watching the live feed, so maybe someone correct me as I'm wrong. But also, if we come into placement, then maybe that says that maybe it was because of those factors.
I might be inclined to agree, but I'm just curious, Aman, is there any case to be made for Hayden here? It's like, one of our classic matchups of a player just kind of in the middle of things. It's not like there's an obvious standout here. But do you have anything that would push this in Hayden's direction?
I mean, I think something that Hayden has going for him over Meg, obviously, is a little bit of the physical prowess. I think that he was obviously viewed as much more of a threat than Meg was because, they made it a point to get rid of him. He was the very first jury member. I do think that while he was the last person to join the bomb squad, I think being included in the bomb squad is still, that says that you're doing something right. When the Mega Alliance wants you in it, as opposed to choosing you to be one of the first targets, why would you not want that, right? And we know that, the bomb squad was very haphazard in its founding days. So maybe some of it can't really be attributed too much to what Hayden was doing specifically, but he was at least socially liked enough that he was included in it. So I feel like he sort of has that over Meg, and that he was technically part of the power structure in the early part of the game more so than Meg was. But I feel like Meg lasts longer more of the time, and I don't think it's just because of her physical condition.
She doesn't need that physical stuff to just be a better social player. So
right.
I think this might be coming down 3-0. I'll make it at least 2-0 here. And
you don't have to.
Oh no, I want to. I definitely think I want to cast a vote for Meg over Hayden, just because of pretty much what you're saying, Kyland. It's just she's a stronger social player. I think she's going to have more conversations on any given season with a wider variety of people in the house, because that's just who she is as a person. It's a natural ability that I feel like she has. And I'm not saying Hayden doesn't, but I think Hayden might connect with people on more of a surface level, where Meg might get a little deeper in conversation with you, and that makes you more compelled to want to work deeper into the game with her. Johnny Mac and Steve just didn't, because they did see a better path in front of them that unfortunately meant she had to go. So I'm going to vote for Meg.
So it doesn't really matter what I do now, but I think I want to give it to Hayden here, only because we saw what happened, but I don't think it's because Hayden isn't as good socially as Meg. I think that they're kind of about the same.
Mm-hmm.
I think what really did him in is that, for one, he was outmaneuvered in being a part of the big power structure, like the detonators is what, like, eventually the bomb squad shrinks down to. He didn't make it to that shrinking part of it. So it was just an outmaneuvering. But in terms of like his social game, where it falls short, I think, is that, he got into a showmance with Nicole and he kind of spent more time with Nicole. But outside of that, it's not like he wasn't capable. So I feel like, for me, if he does not get into a showmance, I think Hayden does better at Big Brother than Meg does. I think that Meg only has a certain amount of runway for the amount of agency that she has, whereas I think Hayden has more options more often. So I'll give it to Hayden.
Okay.
Even though he still lost.
Just so you know, Kyland, we have a feature here where patrons of the podcast get to cast a vote for a player that they would like to do so.
Nice.
And if there's a tie, including their vote, then the tie goes in their favor. So this 2-1 vote right now could become a 2-2 vote, in which case Hayden would go through. But I'm just teasing you all because there's no Hayden vote here. So Meg is going to be the winner of this matchup, but we'll see if a patron vote comes into play in the future. Just wanted to scare him on a little bit because he didn't think he was doing that. Let's get back to the wheel.
Wait, so what was that vote?
2-1.
3-2.
3-2.
Or 2-1. Sorry.
2-1.
Else is here. 2-1 vote. Meg goes through over Hayden Voss. Hayden Voss, though, I do believe has already made his way to the second round. So only one Hayden Voss at a time. Let's find our next player today. Third of the day. Second matchup.
Who shall it be?
We are going to Big Brother 26.
Okay.
Cam Sullivan Brown. Very recent.
At the crib.
At the time this podcast is out, for those interested, Big Brother 27 has began when this podcast is released.
No way.
So Cam is old news. BB23's is old news at this point, but not today. We're going to talk about Cam. Look back on last summer as we're here in the new summer. Come on. We have notes on Cam?
We certainly do. Cam was noted for his poor competition performances and mostly strategic coasting. As such, he was never seen as a threat by the majority of the House. Cementing a core alliance called the Pentagon, Cam was relegated to the minority during the late pre-jury stage as he lost key allies mainly because of Chemo and T-Core's last-minute vote flipping, leaving him with Chelsea as his only loyal ally as he entered the jury. There, he formed a connection with Mackenzie and was able to skate through with ease until finale night. While he was deemed by everyone else as the easy person to bring to the final two, Mackenzie's strategic oversight and loyalty to Chelsea caused her to vote out Cam instead.
Oof.
Kylan, this guy was I think he was my winner pick going into the season. And even as he gets all the way to final three, I mean, obviously at that point, I'm looking at Chelsea. We're all looking at Chelsea as the more obvious winner if she gets there. But I was waiting all season long. I thought there was a chance that my winner pick just may come true because he was playing so steady.
Yeah. I feel like, I think the competitions really did come into play as far as like almost holding him back in a way. Like, I feel like there's this thing in Big Brother that, you know, if you're a guy, especially like, you know, a more like, I don't know,
athletic build
jock-looking guy.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Athletic build.
Yeah, like athletic looking jock guy, like, and you're winning a bunch of competitions, then like that's gonna be either negative to neutral. Like, it's just like, oh, like this, you know, this sucks. This is why the Big Brother competitions are all skewed, which there is a conversation about, like, you know, making them as fair as they can. But then if you lose, then it's a exponentially higher, or at least disproportionately higher negative. And I feel like I find myself, I'm processing this thought as I'm having it. Because I'm like, you know, I feel like that was something I felt. I was like pretty more than underwhelmed, almost disappointed in this person I don't know for not winning competitions. But then I'm just like, wait, like that's not I would judge him more harshly because of those stereotypes than I would, you know, someone else not winning the competitions. That being said, too, I actually would shout out not the dogs at the crib, but the Big Brother in general for 2026. I think that's something they did really well, was their competitions were like as equalized as possible for the most part. I think more than probably ever. And I think that did result in more spread out wins and a lot of competitions that didn't necessarily favor like men over women, which I think is, you know, a great part of the game, because there's not really games there's nothing that can, you know, favor women over men really. It's really, I don't know what that would be. So I feel like this was, yeah. So I processed multiple thoughts there, but I mean, as far as charisma and like someone that you just want to have around, like I met Cam one time and I'm like, man, this dude is so cool and so nice, and I'm like, who wouldn't want, you know, to be friends with him? And so I feel like the social side can obviously it can really get him far. So that's
where I'm at. I think he is someone who could definitely go deep. That's what I saw in him in the preseason, to feel like he could go deep into really any season, because he's seems like he could be such a good social player. But Aman, I feel like where he lacked was a little bit of like the strategic like oomph, where it was like, obviously he was going along with Chelsea for a lot of the season, whatever was left of the Pentagon. And there were a couple of different times that you just wanted to see a little bit more. Of course, we never get a chance to see that more. He goes out in third place, and specifically I feel like I remember not feeling like he even tried to get himself into the final two when Mackenzie was casting that vote to evict there. It kind of just resigned himself to the fact that that the two girls were going to go to the end and he was out. It was like, Chelsea is such a strong player, just tell Mackenzie that, say you're going to lose to Mackenzie, sit next to me. And I was like, has he said that? Is he going to say that? So that's kind of one of the things that sticks out to me. But still, you know, I think the social game, you know,
I think he said at one point that he was never going to ever take MJ. He was always going to take Chelsea to the end,
which is also like,
well, and I feel like maybe that is such a big part of the game, the bonds, because I can imagine also at that point him not wanting to have that speech. If he feels really close to Chelsea in like a personal way, he doesn't want to throw her under the bus. And I think that when you're in that situation, it's also like, which I can imagine, because I think Cam had a pretty successful like social media like career or something going on, pre-Big Brother, whatever he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
It can be really easy to forget about like the money in the win. Like the win almost becomes like this. It's just like, hey, like I want to win. But like, you know, I'm pretty sure I have, it's like, how hard am I going to push in this scenario? And so I can imagine that being maybe some motivation, is he doesn't want to, you know, he doesn't know in that moment how to craft a speech that can elevate him as the pick without downing Chelsea. And he didn't want to do that is what I'm guessing.
I think Cam is he's just nice. he's just really nice, and I think he's very conflict averse. He doesn't dabble with arguing. That's just not his shtick.
He was unbothered. That was the meme all season. Unbothered Cam.
And he really just could not be bothered. I mean, even when it came down to that T-Core vote, when they were split on who was going to go home, he could have decided to keep her there, but he ended up siding with Mackenzie because he didn't want to upset Mackenzie. So he just doesn't have the wherewithal to upset the people that he's closest with in the house. It's just not his shtick, which I don't necessarily, I mean, that makes you a good Big Brother player in some ways. It makes you a terrible Big Brother player in others. I just think that the bottom line is you have to be more self-interested than he was. And, you know, even when, you know, they finally decided to evict him, like I kind of wanted there to be a bit more fire. And he's just like, and not that he should, you know, not have good sportsmanship, but like there was just something so like, oh, come on. I wanted to shake him. And it was just like,
all right,
ladies,
see you guys later.
Great job. Fantastic job, ladies. I'm like, no, like you were so close. You could have at least fought for second place. Like, what's going on here?
Too nice of a guy.
Yeah, he's just too nice. I mean, look at that smile. Like he's just
well, and I wonder too if he had the awareness of like you said, he could fight for second place, and it's just like, oh, am I getting like did he know?
Hey, I might had like little crushes on him at one point. Like he could have worked his little, you know, Spitsalom game. You know what I mean? Like, come on.
Yeah, no, I mean, did he have an awareness that he would lose to Mackenzie and that Chelsea would absolutely beat Mackenzie? And thus he's like, well, if it's choice between one of us getting second or one of us getting first. I'd rather one of us get first.
I feel like that was definitely had to be a thought, because I think it was conversation that some of us were having outside of the house. I'm sure like in most worlds he would still want to take second place, but like on that other side of things, like you were talking about, Kyland, of like maybe just taking like zooming out of the overall picture of the win. Like there's other factors that you're thinking of 90 days into the game. So everyone's different. Everyone's, got a different thought process at every step of the way. But I don't know.
Look, he was. I think a lot of us were like, this guy's gonna win this damn season in the beginning, because he was actively throwing comps. Like 3 of the first HOHs he threw, like no ifs, ands, or buts, and we're like, yeah, this is all like the quiet before the storm, and this is really gonna turn it up. And he just never did.
Yeah.
So, and some of it, it's like, on one hand, I'm happy that Cam is an example of, because he didn't throw all those comps, and I'm happy that there's an example of, just because you are physical doesn't necessarily mean that you are going to be a threat. Like, just because he's packaged one way, you automatically assume he's going to be hard to beat. No,
I'm sure I've said it before, but I always like to, only because you mentioned the throwing comps, like I like to spread it far and wide, but in these, I can't speak for Survivor, but in Big Brother and the Challenge, throwing comps is just way more rare than it's talked about. Like all of the because all the interviews are after the competition, so it's a lot easier to talk about something that you didn't win.
I didn't want to win that.
I didn't want, and I do give the nuance is that there is a difference between something that you have to win and something that you don't have to win. And that can play a factor as far as like not trying. Like there's a difference in, I didn't try my best versus like, oh, I absolutely could have won it, but I decided to throw it. It's like,
right.
Yeah.
85 to 90% of the things that are thrown, you weren't going to win.
Yeah, he could have benefited from a couple extra wins, whether he was throwing, not throwing. We'll never know.
And I'm not even speaking to Cam. I'm just saying in Big Brother and Challenge as a whole. Yeah.
Let's find Cam an opponent here. Could be an interesting matchup. I feel like Cam's got a couple of good points going for him, but I don't know. The wheel's still filled with plenty of really good and really bad players. So let's see.
In the wheel.
Let's see what we get. Who's going to match up with Cam? We're going to go we're going back to BB17 here. Shelly Poole.
Hey,
Shelly, aka Shelly and Clay, because that was the story of the season.
Clelly. Wasn't that the name? That was the official name, right? Clelly.
Maybe.
I doubt it was Shay or Chalet.
Let's get Shelly up on the screen and talk about Miss Poole.
All right. Shelly, along with the rest of the Sixth Sense Alliance, ran the house for the first half of the game, dismantling the season's original power alliance, the Goblins. In week 6, she and her showmance Clay were nominated against each other when the Goblins returned to power. While Shelly survived the eviction, she was nominated for the second time in a row during week 7. The votes were initially set to evict Vanessa, her closest remaining ally, but Vanessa managed to flip the house and Shelly was eliminated during, which is still, to this day, I know that everyone talks about all the stuff that Vanessa has pulled off, but the way she was supposed to go home that week and did not, that to me is the game-winning move of Vanessa. I don't care about what anybody else has to say about it. Like, that was crazy to me. I could not believe she did that. But I digress.
I know. I mean, we're talking about Shelly here, but Vanessa being a big player within the game of like everything that Shelly had going on. Like, Kyland, you played with plenty of strong players, but like playing with a Vanessa Russo is just a whole other level of playing Big Brother.
Definitely. I mean, honestly, I could imagine because Vanessa was also winning competitions, I feel like, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I was going to say, as far as like game theory sort of thought, I would compare somebody like a Claire. Claire is crazy smart and just studies game theory for fun. And I feel like that's her the understanding is something that, but the fact that you add in that and the ability to win competitions, it's, such a dangerous combination. And and she's an iconic player for a reason. I feel like.
Yeah, Shelly could have been a much more, I don't know about iconic, but memorable player, if not for Vanessa stopping her run there. She really, I feel like, was such a standout of the early part of the game, Aman. I feel like she, it was her, it was Vanessa, it was Audrey, Devon. When you're watching like the feeds in those early couple of weeks, you're looking for what these women are up to because there was always something going on. Obviously, the game slips out of her hands a little bit along the way, and her and Clay start to get a little bit more heat on them for things that the Sixth Sense were doing, that big alliance, and it just falls apart.
Yeah, I think she was pretty decent. I think, without a Vanessa being there, I think that Shelly is probably a big contender to win the season. I think that she was set up pretty well. I think that she was also just decently well liked, but she was like firm but like fair, I think, when it came to like the reasoning behind how she like operated in the house, except for like the whole Devon thing. I still have an issue with how that all went down. That was still so unnecessary to me. But I think the way that she would like really like use a lot of her social connections in the house, like being a part of like that sorority that her and the twins were in, really helped the twins come over to their side as opposed to going over to the other side. I think that obviously she has a little bit of muscle with her, with Clay being by her side, but also Clay is also a little bit of a con to her game because he's a little bit of a hothead and entered them into conflicts that they did not need to be entered into. Again, one with Devon. So I feel like she was very decent. I feel like she was really attuned to what was going on. And I think that she was just a pretty easy like scapegoat and a good person for Vanessa to shift blame onto and to drop when needed. And of course, that she just got outmaneuvered when she was on the block because Shelly should have stayed, but it just didn't work out that way.
Kyland, was the well, actually, I think either of you could answer this question. Showmances on BB23, was it just like the maybe Christian and Alyssa situation? Am I forgetting any possible showmances? Will they, won't they?
Anything like, that was any relevance? Yeah, it was just that.
Just that. Because I mean, look, BB23 is not naturally coming up today, but I want to talk BB23 while we have you here. So let me just turn this into a showman's question and tell us your experience of playing the game with a possible showman's in the house.
I mean, I feel like it's a factor. And I think that if you have strategic players and they want to get rid of the showmances, I feel like that was for sure when we had, I remember there was a conversation on the final vote pre-jury when it was the HOH before me, the one where Christian, was that Derek, where Christian went out?
Yes, that was the HOH. Yeah.
Yes, and I feel like
yes,
he was because I was trying to remember. Because we had Frenchie, and then we had Derek, me, and then we had Xavier, and then.
You want to do the whole thing? I have it up if you want to.
Oh, sure, yeah.
The whole thing. You had the first three.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Frenchie, Kyland, Xavier.
And then who was after? Did you have it?
Christian.
Oh, it was Christian. Okay, so it's Christian. And
Christian,
then
Derek, you.
Yes. Okay. So I just remember during that one, we had there was a internal little conflict in the cookout early on. It was me and Tiffany and Xavier trying to decide because we had both Christian and SB, I believe, on the block. And Xavier really wanted to get rid of Sarah Beth, and so he wanted to keep Christian. And it was just like, well, then I lose my like +1 person. He's like, well, you already have Derek. I was like, well, Derek technically is Chada's. So like it was a whole thing. And that I think was one of the major points was like, hey, like first off, Derek's not mine. Derek is Chada's, and mine is SB. You have Alyssa. You can't have Alyssa and Christian, and also, you know, Christian is someone, and Tiffany helped kind of tiebreak because Christian was, as most people were, was like heavily, you know, what's the word? Endeared to Tiffany.
Yes, very much so.
So yeah, so she's like, hey, I'd rather keep Christian than SB, but like for this system to work, like we can't, Kyland needs a person. And the fact that Christian and Alyssa have a showmance is strong enough that we can't keep them together.
Yeah.
So I think that, yeah, like I said, if you have, you know, the enough strategic leaning players, they know like it's not good to have, two people who are never going to vote for each other.
Yeah, Shelly and Clay have a similar trajectory as far as the guy goes out first. Christian went out first there. Clay goes out first here. Clay kind of fell on his sword for Shelly, although I think the tides were kind of turning in that direction anyway. But Shelly's not going to go out too much farther after. But I feel like this is an interesting matchup. Another similarly, like there's points to be made for both sides of the fence. I don't know. Kyland, what are you thinking?
Oh gosh. I was like, who'd we start with? No,
We got Cam versus Shelly.
What year is this? I think that because Shelly was close to Vanessa.
She was until she wasn't. Until
she wasn't.
Until it didn't work anymore.
But I feel like she kind of who turned first.
I feel like there were the thing was that there were conversations that
you're eating a Twizzler in the middle of a podcast.
Sorry. Shelly had conversations that weren't always Vanessa friendly with other parts of the house. And of course, Vanessa found out about it, but it was never, Shelly was never fully on board of like, let's get Vanessa out of here.
Yeah.
outside of the fact that they were like on the block together, obviously.
I guess, yeah. And I feel like what stands out to me is that I do think that Shelly may have let the showmance come into play too much. And that's kind of a hard thing to, because she could have just had the showmance and had that be like her, you know, romantic fix, but like really locked in on Vanessa and started trying to make every single move with Vanessa. And I feel like obviously it was probably a different feeling when you were in the house, but no matter how much someone lies about like their occupation, you can tell if they're like a smart person or something that they're not. And I feel like it was like Chada was telling us she's a fashion student, and we're like, okay, maybe, but she's also the smartest person in the house. And we knew that by like the second week or day or like sooner. It was like, okay, she's smart. And I think that I'd imagine there could have been, you know, Shelly seems perceptive enough to have known that about Vanessa, and to not lock in on her feels a little bit like maybe. And so I don't know how much of that's I feel like the hard part about showmances is it limits our ability to see how good of a player she could have been.
Yeah.
And so it's because of that, it is almost like, all right, if you have someone who is a conventionally attractive, charming, charismatic person, then that can probably get you further in the game. But I feel like that's what I'm leaning initially, but I'd love to hear some counter thoughts because I want to be open. And I feel like overall, Shelly, going back to 17's not, I mean, my favorite thing about 17 is it gave us Devon. Like, I feel like outside of that, I don't really like, it's not a season that I go to. And Vanessa's pretty amazing. But outside of those things, I feel like I don't really place it in my brain as like something I remember the week to week gameplay.
Yeah, I'll vote here. I think for me, I am landing on Shelly here. I think it's very, very close, but I think I'm just taking some points away with Cam, as we were just talking about, of like the lack of fight at the very end, where I was like, I didn't remember seeing what I wanted to see at such a, like, there are 3 of you left in the house and the goal of Big Brother is to win, right? So I'm not like, you know, if this was him versus like That's what they say.
What
That's
do they
like
say?
if it was like a lesser player than a Shelly, I think this easily goes to Cam. But because Shelly showed a lot of promise in my mind, I feel like, of course, getting outmaneuvered by Vanessa Russo is not something that you could dock in major ways, or at least I'm not going to. So just given how close it is, I feel like Shelly would have fought every step of the way when it came down to
Probably.
it. But I'm also open to people thinking that this is not the correct vote that I'm making.
Okay, wait. I have a question,
Yeah.
and I feel like maybe this should have been in the front end. What is the like rubric? Is this who in any game will make it to the end, or who will win in any game, or is this a final two vote? Like, what kind of are we judging? Because I'm like,
It's-
who's gonna? I think Cam's gonna make it to final four most of the time, and he's
Yes.
never gonna win. Shelly is gonna have less times that she makes it, but if she makes it there, she's probably gonna be a contender to win.
I think I agree with you 100%. Aman loves to answer this question. So
It's whatever you want it to be, Kyland. It is whatever rubric you are feeling in your soul, in your chakras, in your shondos, you go for that.
Okay. Well then, then I would probably switch to Chelsea, because I know that is the way that we should think about things. It is because it's really easy. Not really easy, obviously. None of it's easy, but it can be a very different game, to get to the. I think one of the easier examples is like 16. It can be easy to get to final three, like if somebody just wants to bring you for if the game is happening around you,
yeah.
and it's advantageous to have you there.
So you're leaning Shelly?
Huh?
You're leaning to vote
I'm
for
leaning Shelly. Yeah, I'm leaning Shelly, because I think Cam will always make it far, but I think that it'll be hard for him to win. And I think that from what we saw, and especially what you were talking about, that fight, like not having that fight in terms of like being able to make that case, and even if it was for the reasons of not wanting to make the case, I think earlier in the game we don't have those moments of him being a driver of moves. And I think that Shelly showed that she has the ability to drive a conversation, to drive moves in a certain way.
Yeah, I think she's willing to take more risks when it comes down to it. And Cam just kind of coasting through exactly what you said, like could get him deep into the game every time that he plays. And I don't think that he has like a hard time winning sometimes, but you need that fight all the way at the end of the game. And maybe I'm just focusing too much on that. I feel like Amon's about to cast a vote for Cam.
I am going to cast a vote for Cam because I agree with everything that we've said. I agree with you, man. I think you do have to have that fight in the end, but you also have to know when to take your foot off the gas in the beginning. And I don't know if Shelly knew how to do that. Shelly was like the major voice behind 3 out of like the first 4 or 5 evictions. She was the face of everything. Now, whether or not she deserved to be, that's a conversation about what Vanessa had going on. But nonetheless, it was her face that was attached to everything. And she was the communicator for her alliance. She was the face of her alliance. And they wanted her ass gone. And she should have been gone. So, like, to me, I'm like, can she pump the brakes? I don't know. But I think for everything that Cam is lacking, what he does have is sustainability. And I think it also just is a matter of him winning a few more comps, which he had a bad comp run on Big Brother. He just did. Sometimes like the comps, sometimes they just don't go in your favor. Big Brother is a bunch of carnival games. Let's just be honest. All right. Like
in an ideal world, it is. Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that there's that, which is what do you mean? Like, because I feel like there should be, because it's like I'm pretty good at carnival games, and it's not like
you won a couple.
Well, yeah, I mean, more than a couple, but it's like,
you go.
I don't know. I've had conversations a little bit like with Michael about it, and even Jag. It's like, and they, Jag's season is unique because of the level of competitors that were there. But as far as like these competitions go, but like Michael, like, built out some of the games like at his house.
Yeah.
Like it's not like you can't, it's not that skills don't matter in the it's not like they're lucky random draws, but as far as the
I agree with you. I don't think that they're lucky. But what I'm saying is I think that the gap in which that needs to be closed for Cameron, I think is achievable on a physical level. Whereas I don't necessarily know if the instinct on how to not be as vocal in the game.
It's easier for him to get better at competitions than it could be for Shelly to correct whatever she needs to correct.
Correct.
And then both of you, what is your guys' personal metric on, what are you making? Like, and it doesn't be all the votes, but this vote right now, do you look at it as like, this is who can win or this is who can make it far, or both to some combination?
Yeah, I just think,
because I feel like Cam is capable of getting a vote in the end. I feel like Shelly is also capable of getting a vote in the end. Who do I think gets there to the end more? Cam.
I think, yeah, it's like for me, like if you were looking at like a graph of, what percentage I was giving both of these two of the vote, I'm giving Shelly like 51% of the vote and Cam like 49%. It's that close to me that I very easily could switch, could still switch to vote for Cam. But when it comes down to it, I just feel like there were so many times last season that we were wishing that he would do more. And I'm just trying to think back to like Shelly's run and thinking, were there also times that I was wishing she would do more outside of especially the showmans? I think that was, as we were talking about, a bit of a distraction for both her and Clay, who otherwise maybe could have gone on to do a little bit better if they were working with more of the outsiders and found a way to overcome the Vanessa Russo obstacle, which was going to be very hard because it's Vanessa Russo. But I don't know. I think,
yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, you guys are, it's fine. You don't have to change your answer.
No, I know. No. I feel so conflicted as well because I think it sucks. It's like I think that the emotional side, like to the emotional breakdown of like after Clay leaving, I think was just such, like I said, it's hard, her being a showman, so we don't get to see what she was capable of. And right now I am trying to think of,
she has the week where she's the one that has to take out Audrey, and Audrey, I feel like we haven't talked about this much at all. Audrey's like in her corner, right? Like a big player in her pocket for a good amount of time in the game. And having that piece that was like, so like people didn't know what to do with or about Audrey during her time in the game. And then when it's like one of those votes that happens every so often in a Big Brother season where it's like, okay, the whole house has decided this is who we want to go. So even though Shelly probably could have benefited from having Audrey in the house, she doesn't go against the tide. And sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't. I think Matt Hoffman is an example of someone who will like say, no, let somebody else do that. I want to keep, pieces around in the game or players around in the game that will benefit me in some way, shape, or form. Shelly didn't do that. She let the house have their way. So again, you can kind of see it from both ways and play the what would have happened game. But I think the Audrey piece is important.
I'm having more trouble trying to remember. Like I was trying to see moves from Cam. And I know. Sorry, we're probably going over time on this vote, but
we're fine.
That is, is there anything?
Because he doesn't have an HOH, right? That's what we were just discussing. I think he had the one veto and that was it. So it's like we couldn't, 0 HOHs, 1 veto, 4 times on the block. His deal was, Aman, you were talking about the T-Core situation that he had like a good relationship with her and they checked in from time to time. And I was like constantly feeling like if he was in power, he was going to navigate that as best as he could have, which I had some faith in there. But because the power was always in someone else's hands, we never really got to see what would have happened under pressure. His whole game could have completely fumbled and maybe he doesn't even make it as far as he does, or maybe that earns him a level of respect. Maybe that time in the HOH room gives him the fire, the fuel to then have that extra oomph at the end of the game and get to the end with Mackenzie, or, I don't know.
I think to me, Cam is gun shy. To me, that's what it boils down to. And is his game in Big Brother 26 the best? No, but I just think that that's such an easier thing in my mind. It's just an easier thing to to correct.
I think I'm also just thinking Cam.
It's just my opinion. I don't. I doesn't mean that I'm correct.
That's what we all have. But I think Cam, we very often give people points for like the natural abilities they come into the game with, and Cam's natural ability to be charismatic and charming, all that stuff, that's good, but it's like he didn't have to work hard to do that because it's just him already. I think Shelly does have to work hard to be the strategic kind of player that she was showing signs of. And again, I think
I don't think so. I think that all came naturally to her as well. I just think that she didn't know when to rein it in. And so she was on the block.
I just think it takes more out of you to like it's showing more to me that you're flexing your strategic muscles than it does that you're showing flexing your social muscles. If those are natural, if they're both natural, I think the strategic ones just kind of make me a little bit more impressed.
Okay.
Is anyone changing their vote? Are we all good? 2-1.
Yes.
Shelly's going through. Wait, was that a yes? You're changing your vote, Kyland?
No. We can go. We'll
2-1.
We'll go Shelly. We'll go Shelly.
All right. Shelly's going to go through. We'll think on that one for the rest of the podcast. Said, we have one more matchup to go. But that was fun. I don't know if I expected it to be such a brain buster, but hey, that's what the fun is around here.
Yeah.
Let's spin for the fifth player of the day while we again sit on that last matchup. We're gonna go to the aforementioned Big Brother 25.
Matt Klotz.
Matt.
Okay.
You just mentioned Jag, Kyland.
Yep.
We're not talking Jag here. We're talking Matt. Jag's already through to the next round. Matt, will he join him or not? Let's find out.
All right.
Come on.
Matt, originally secure in the first HOH Rally's Inner Alliance, her eviction in week 2 would put Matt's game in jeopardy. An ally to power player Suri, Matt would lie low and stay safe for the aftermath. In week 4, Matt was voted to participate in the Power of Invincibility comp, which he would win and save Jag from his unanimous eviction. Matt would grow closer with Jag, and they pulled in Bowie Jane to form the Mafia. The Mafia would dominate the jury phase. Facing the jury vote with Jag, Matt stumbled on the jury's questions and failed to explain his independence as a player in comparison to Jag's well-articulated ownership of his game, leading Matt to finishing as the runner-up by a vote of 5-2. Matt would finish in the top 3 for AFP, but also lost that to Cameron.
Kylan, imagine you used the secret power you had in the game to bring back your friend who got evicted, and all of a sudden that friend beats you in the final 2. I can't imagine that feels great.
It'd be interesting.
Yeah, a little tough. But that's what happens for Matt, who was a very impressive player despite some bumps along the road for us as fans watching. Made some comments along the way that weren't the best, to put it mildly, but his gameplay I think speaks for itself in the sense that he was in good with a lot of people in that house. I remember thinking at like the beginning of the jury phase, I'm like, this is Matt's game to lose. Of course, then Jag is going to go on his comp run, but Matt was, working the house. He had that, I think, key relationship with Suri that was very important in, while the people that he was forming better bonds with outside of Suri, like he was working with them, and then he would be able to go check him with, as he called her, Mama Suri, and the two of them had a good dynamic, and it just brought him all the way to the end of the game, almost looking effortlessly, Kyland.
I think that I don't know. I guess one thing that comes to mind is what you were saying about him using the power for Jag, because it's like, is that the strategic move that helped him get to the end? And I think that it's kind of one of those things where, and he was definitely playing the game and participating and working on things. I think that I feel like I'm interested to see who we pair against.
Matt.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
Do I feel like he should have won against Jag? Sometimes. obviously, I mean, Jag has the whole. He's got the story going for him. He was
The
evicted.
speech was huge.
All those comp wins. It's a fun story to tell. He's got the Taylor Hale sort of factor going, right? It's a good story. Now, as far as Matt's involvement in Jag's story, like if Jag is like, if he's Cinderella in the Cinderella story, Matt is undoubtedly the the fairy godfather in saving his ass, and not only doing that, but also sort of being like the main out of the two of them, because I think they called themselves the Minutemen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Out of the two of them, he was sort of more instrumental in the strategy more of the time. Jag definitely kicked it up towards the end, but I think strategy gets a little easier when there's less people in the house. It's just a numbers game at that point.
Yeah.
So there are definitely pieces of me where I'm like, yeah, Matt definitely feels a little bit more in tune with how the game should go. And you want to believe that following all the way up to jury into finale. But then Matt gets up on the finale stage and is not intentional with half of his answers. And yeah, you can equate some of that to nerves and to, it's hard. It's 90 something days that you're supposed to compress into 30-second answers. Like, that's hard to do.
Oh yeah, it's impossible
For anybody. So like, I'm not gonna.
We've seen worse. Yeah,
we've seen worse. We've certainly seen worse. But you are asked multiple questions, and I wanted at least one of those questions to be a slam dunk, and he just could not get it together. And I was like, it made me call into question. I was like, okay, so how intentional was a lot of the stuff that you did? Because you did kind of take your foot off the gas towards the end of the game. Jag kind of carried you, and at some point you can no longer say like your winning move can't be saving Jag. It can't be, because again, Jag's story is always going to beat yours because of just the magnitude of it. So I don't know. It's a weird position, because there are certainly times where I'm like, I feel like Matt did much more work than Jag did, but Jag won those damn comps, and sometimes that's just what matters more. And so it's hard.
That's really what it came down to. I mean, besides the speech, so he gets the 2 votes. I just double checked him. I'm pretty sure Suri and Felicia. The Suri vote was not surprising that he ends up getting that one. They had such a good relationship throughout the season, but there are so many more votes that were necessary there. I mean, the Korean America block of 2 votes, I mean,
there's only 7 votes, right?
Yeah, smaller juries at this point, but like for obvious reasons, I feel like those votes aren't going to go Matt's way, but that's a problem, right? Like that we have a 7-person jury, and I feel like we can already count on a handful of votes that aren't going to go your way, even though he had a lot of good things about his game throughout the season. Corey in America, I think we're never going to go his way. I mean, I could be completely wrong about that, but just from my perspective, I feel like some of the things that Matt was saying throughout the season, both that were heard and things that were heard later, were just not great in many ways. And so, yeah, I mean, you could be the greatest social player in the world and, have Suri with a great relationship all season, which is great, because a lot of players that were close to Suri do get far in the game, and unfortunately for Suri, very often do beat her at the end. But there were still so many other people there that were much more inclined to vote for Jag, even though he had been evicted. But Aman, like you said, there's also the comp win. So, hard to go up against that in any arena. So
yeah,
we have Matt. We can get Matt an opponent and see what this matchup looks like on both ends of things. So let's do that. BB25, Matt Klotz up against
Matt Klotz, baby.
Paloma.
Okay. Okay.
Well, if we thought we were running a little late on time, we are about to go a little quicker.
I just noticed that Kyland's shirt sort of matches the color scheme of the podcast.
First thing I said when Kyland showed up is,
"Hey,
yeah." Okay. Oh, I didn't even bother looking up her thing.
You could just go off memory if you want to.
We can.
Okay, no, let me. I'll find it. All right, I found it.
There have been as I like look at the wheel, look at the names every so often, I see a couple names like this one where I'm like, whoever gets this name, this person as their matchup is gonna have the easiest time getting through to the next round. And so it's probably gonna be Matt that is the recipient of that. We'll confirm that in a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Paloma.
She hit the ground running, forming the Girls Alliance, with most of the women leaving out Nicole and Taylor. She also participated in turning the house against Taylor. Although she was successful in getting Taylor put on the block, Paloma had also been struggling mentally and had a hard time sleeping, constantly talking and scheming about many ways to split the prize with everyone and how she's already figured out how to win the game. She ultimately wound up walking away from the game on day 8.
Not the kind of Big Brother story journey that we're used to seeing, Kyland. This is not usually how people's experience goes. Obviously, it seems like there was some more going on. She ends up leaving the game. And, you know, the 8 days that she was there weren't the most enjoyable for us to watch. We all know the story of how Taylor goes on to win Big Brother 24 despite all of this. But this start, particularly because of this person, not fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, like, just yeah, like, look, whatever she had going on, I empathize with her. I sympathize with her, even because it's mental strain enough to be put into the Big Brother house, right? On top of that, it is undoubtedly harder for those that already have other mental hurdles that they are constantly having to fight against, right? Like, I remember this was a big conversation at the time when fans were like, you know, and I know that we should never really be in the business of diagnosing people that we don't know, but sometimes you can call a spade and at least be like, something is off, okay? Because the behavior is just a little concerning. The things that are coming out of her mouth are a little concerning. I'll never forget being in a Twitter space. I think Rachel and Janelle were hosting it. And Janelle was like ragging against production, being like, bitch, give her damn meds so she can at least straighten out before we make any decisions as to whether or not she needs to be out of the game or be pulled. Like, if you're withholding medication, it's ridiculous. And she went into this whole story about like Big Brother 22, where she was like, yeah, they told me that I wasn't allowed to have some of my medication because they were like, well, it's not fair for you to have an anti-anxiety medication because everybody else in the house feels anxiety. So you should have to feel it too. And she's like, well, bitch, yeah, I feel it, but it's like a clinical thing for me. It's not just like regular one-of-the-mill anxiety. And so this sparked a big conversation about like how well production should be taking care of the house guests.
Yeah.
I hadn't even heard that. I didn't hear about refusal medication. I know that I'm provided myself and others that were in my season are medications that, like, if you're prescribed it by a doctor, they were going to give it to you. Is my experience.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised to hear that there was a different. I didn't.
Well, we don't.
24. I wasn't really.
We don't know. We don't know. That was the speculation that sort of like caused that conversation. No, what Paloma specifically had going on, obviously production or whoever else. No, we're not going to know unless Paloma herself came out and said, yeah, this is what I'm on. This is what I'm not on. To my knowledge, I don't think that she has. I don't remember, and I really don't care to look it up. But
yeah,
that was at least the speculation and the conversation around the situation at the time.
Yeah. Can I end us on a more fun note? Let me just pull the wheel back up. I kind of want to see how long it takes us to pull a BB23 player.
Yeah, I'm kind of pissed that we didn't get one. I was like, this is like the perfect time for this to happen. And really, they gave us these people.
None of this means anything here, but nope. Back to BB17. The wheel really, really wants Kyland to talk BB17.
Like, yeah, I know, 17. Who
Jackie.
Who is 16 in here? Or is it 23? Wow.
Brent, you got Frenchie.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Frenchie, Christian's right there.
Wow. Alyssa.
Now we want to talk about Bailey. We're not getting into Bailey right now.
Wow.
Alyssa
Yeah,
Lopez is right
I don't
there.
know. We got, obviously, I know I'm biased, but I feel like we have so many hitters.
It's a strong cast. We already, again, have so many that have gone through. Back to
Not
BB16.
Pow Pow.
Paola.
They just don't want us to talk about Big Brother
Do you
23.
think we could hit every other player on the wheel before we
It
get
might,
to
let's
BB23?
see.
No, like, what are the odds?
I mean,
Oh, not quite. Frenchie was really close, but it was instead Fessy. Have you? I was gonna ask this if Fessy came up. Have you and Fessy been on the same season of the challenge yet, or
no.
have you missed each other? You've missed each
We
other
missed each other.
eventually. Yeah,
Well, I don't know. I heard he's doing some other show, but
Damn,
JC, this is crazy. Look, I
is
guess
crazy.
we don't need to keep spinning it all day long.
Yeah,
But the wheel is not looking for us to get into BB23, so let's just not do that. But the remaining players, yeah, to say it again from season 23, we have Azza, Alyssa, Christian, Brent, Frenchie, and Travis. I feel like, good chance that definitely a good chance that Azza goes through. A pretty good chance I could see Alyssa going through. Some of the jury players, hard to say. I mean, Frenchie probably not, Brent probably not, Christian there could be a case, Travis not enough data, but a lot of the cast has already gone through, so including Kyland, so nobody worry.
Yeah, definitely has a high placement rate, or high placement average.
Well,
Brother 23.
We'll have to get Kyland back on another day when we can.
So wait,
maybe...
we just called that second one obvious.
I was pretty much assuming that.
No, I'm good with that.
So,
I'm good with that. I just want to make sure
Yeah.
I was tracking. I was following what happened. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, 3-0 vote. Matt is going to see the next round, and we can.
But you guys think Matt?
Now, Kyland. I know you're a prankster. You want to tell Amon about the prank that you and Horacio pulled on season 39 with the elimination when you guys came back? He doesn't watch the challenge, so he's never heard this story before.
Okay, I don't know. I mean, it'll never really come through as strongly, but basically, they did this twist where we did they had a 3-person elimination. And we off site for it. So so normally everyone gets to watch the eliminations, but everyone stayed at the house like some bitches. No. And then the 3 of us were, so it was me and Zara and Horacio, who Zara's the strongest woman in the house besides Nerys. And as far as competitor wise and then me and Horacio. And so which from the beginning, as far as guys, it was me and Horacio versus the rest of the house. But so they finally get us in a competition against each other, but we get bussed off to this challenge, and no one gets to watch, and no one knows what the format. No one knows anything because most eliminations are only 2 people, and so no one knows anything. So we compete, and the 3 of us all compete together at the same time. Then on the bus on the way back, I was like, hey, what if we mess with them and we just because we're I think it came from the thought of we don't want to tell them anything. We don't want to tell them anything about what happened.
Yeah.
We don't want them to have information. So, and I was like, oh, what if we don't have the information? So what if it's we each go, we each tell them hey, or sorry, only one of us will come back. So on the van, bus, whatever, on the way back to the house, I asked production, I was please, can you let us do this? I want to go in first and then look around and be oh, where, is it just me? I have no idea. We all competed as individuals by ourselves. And then Tia just told me I'd come back to the house and I'd find out, who else survived or if anyone survived or what, or if it was just me or whatever. And, to get them all excited, thinking that they got rid of Horacio and Zara, they got rid of both of them, and they're okay, we can do this, but if we do this, you have to commit to this. You can't be no, I'm just kidding or whatever. You have to just hold it out until Horacio comes up. And they're that's fine, no problem. I'll go out for 5 minutes, and then you guys let him in. And they're okay, we're gonna give this, but you can't break. And I was I promise, I won't or whatever. I didn't know that they were really setting me up. Because I go and I'm where is he? Oh, I thought that there'd be someone else here. I thought he'd be here. And so I'm sad. I'm I kind of fake crying for a second. And then everyone, like several other people are crying, falling apart. Everyone's sad, and then they're like, "What happened?" So we're having this conversation. I'm like consoling some of the people that are crying, and I'm like, I'm starting to cry because I'm just like, I'm in way too deep to like not be crying or whatever. And we may have to just forever not tell them that. Like I was like, we're not gonna be able to tell them this was a joke. Like in my head, I'm like, we can't tell them this because they will hate me because I just am I'm playing with people's emotions. And
they were upset. You had like Olivia, like Horacio's ride or die, from the season prior. Like they were all
and they are, and it is 45 minutes, and I'm still sitting here consoling people and crying, and I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
It was at least 45 minutes before finally they had enough footage of everyone crying and decided to let him come walk up on his own. So then I ran over to hug him, like, oh man, he made it. Okay, it's both of us. And I was like, we can't tell them. I was like, we can't tell them this was a joke. Well, they can never know.
Was because you guys go in the next elimination, right? It was like the literal next elimination, so you never had to face the music out there of having people figure out what was happening. And unfortunately, because it's
they didn't until they watched. The only person who ended up knowing was Nerys.
Yeah,
because Nerys did the next elimination. And he told her, I think that night or the morning of or something. He told her, but other than
production is
the rest of them didn't know until they watched.
I love that.
Kyland being a little prankster out there, prankster
worthy, like Emmy worthy performance. I will say
it was fun. It was definitely a lot of fun, as was this podcast today. So let's bring it all home here. Let's remind everybody what just happened in this latest matchup. We didn't need to vote, but Matt Klotz is going through to the next round over BB23's Paloma. Second matchup we spent some time on with Shelly from BB17 going through to the next round over Cam. Might be too late now, but hey, we have battle backs if anybody wants to vote for Cam to come back in. Battle back vote on Patreon coming soon. And then the first matchup of the day, we had Meg Maley from BB17 advance over Hayden Voss. Kyland, are we content with today's work? We sent three players through. Glad to hear it. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it. It's a fun time. It was good. I love you guys are doing this. I'm excited to see where this goes. Wait, so also, what's the plan as far as like being able to finish this? And are you guys going to talk about the current season as well, or? And we can talk about it after if you want to close up.
No. We can. People might be new and might not know the answer. Yeah, Aman, you want to explain how that works?
Yeah. We are going to just incorporate the seasons as they go. So obviously, season 27 is going to air and finish before we are even done with round 1. So all of their names will get added to the wheel for round 1. Now, it's a little wonky because, obviously, there's a bit of an advantage of none of them having to have faced a lot of the players to get to round 2. But then there's also the likelihood of them being matched up more often with one another also just automatically naturally decreases their chances of all making it to round 2. Or who knows? Maybe BB27 will be filled with just mastermind players and they all deserve to make it to the next 2. So, we'll see. Yeah. But yeah, we plan on adding.
The plan is to keep adding players into the mix. So even when we get to like BB28 next summer, because we'll be in round 2 by then, but we'll figure it out. We might do some kind of like play in and maybe half the cast makes it in, a special episode of just BB28 versus BB28. There could be a celebrity season for all we know this winter. Olympics are coming up. So, we'll figure that out as we go, but definitely looking to keep the active Big Brother conversation in the mix. So that's all that. Kyland, where can people check you out on social media? TikTok, Snapchat, all that fun stuff?
Yeah, like I said, I'm live on TikTok pretty much every night. I've been trying to figure out if I'm going to do TikTok or Snapchat or what I'm going to do for streaming, watching the shows, but I guess if you're watching this, maybe then you've probably seen the first episode and what I'm doing. But the main spot outside of that is just Instagram, and then like I said, I do have passes as well. Is a newer platform I'm on where I'm sharing additional thoughts as well. So I'd say, but yeah, the daily TikTok and Instagram and Snapchat. So.
All at Kyland Young, or
everything's at Kyland Young, except randomly TikTok is still Kyland.Young. So You know,
Easy enough to figure out. So thank you again, Kylan, for joining us. If anybody's looking for anything else from myself, I'm on the Free Agents podcast, which Kylan has guested on before. We talked through his season 40 experience over there. So the Challenge 41 coming very soon. We'll be covering that whole season. Plus, we're going through all the old seasons right now in the meantime. So check us out over there. Amon and I are on Patreon, of course, patreon.com/the diary room for our losers brackets, our battle back votes. If any of these losers from today compel you to vote for them, do so when we open up voting again. It's every 5 episodes we have a battle back vote. So check that out if you are interested. Otherwise, Amon is wrapping up Drag Race All Stars, if not already wrapped up, which should be done. A very fun season up until the point that we have seen so far. Hopefully it finished strong too, but there's that.
Ginger Minge won, didn't she? Just let me know whenever. Put it in the comments once once it's aired. I'm pretty sure she probably won.
Yes.
But yeah, that's it for me as well. Just yeah.
All right. You guys can find all of our handles for any social media in the episode descriptions for YouTube, for anywhere you're listening to this. So that'll do it for today. Again, thank you to Kyland. Amon, let's get out of here.
Yes,
Thanks
thank
for having me,
you
guys.
to of course, thank you for joining us once again. Kyland of BB23 and of Cookout fame. And until next time, guys, please go to the diary room.